Hyrule Warriors is a love letter of a game, filled to the brim with references to nearly every game in the Zelda franchise. Some of these references are pretty obvious and in your face, like the various weapons being items from throughout the Zelda series, or even just the roster itself, while others will go unnoticed by a majority of people playing through the game. When playing through the game's seemingly endless adventure mode, players may admittedly quickly begin to grow bored of how similar every level becomes as you fight the same handful of playable characters every map and challenge all the same bosses that you already beat numerous times, no doubt, in the game's story mode. I love this game, I mean obviously I do, but I think we can all admit there's a little bit of tedium to trying to 100% the adventure mode. Stick with the adventure mode long enough though, and you'll soon come across two enemies that almost nobody playing the game has seen before. And honestly, how's that for rewarding variety? On the Termina Adventure map, which was originally released as part of the game's Majora's Mask DLC pack, the player will occasionally receive a message that none other than Captain Kida has appeared on the map. Rush on over to Captain Kida's location and you'll find a large style child unlike any of the others in the game. He's even got a unique model and everything, which is honestly crazy investment for something as small as this that most players will probably never get to see in their playthroughs. For those unfamiliar with him, this enemy actually originated in Majora's Mask, where Captain Kida was the long-dead member of the Ikana army who would challenge Link to a race if awakened. Or rather, he'll begin running away, and it's up to the player to chase after him and strike him down. Which, admittedly, is not the most sportsmanlike conduct from our hero of time, but with 3 days to stop the moon from annihilating the entire world, I think we can forgive a Geneva Convention violation or two, right? Like most style children, Captain Kida seems to just be a mindless monster, but should the hero of time defeat Captain Kida in a fight, he reveals he's actually much more intelligent than most of the style children that you meet in these games, and gifts Link the Captain's Hat Mask with the request that the hero of time spread word to all the soldiers of Ikana that their war has already ended before returning to his eternal rest. That's right, Ikana soldier who kept fighting 290 years after the war. It's over. Go home. Go to your grave. Go to the beyond. Pack it up. Whenever Captain Kida appears in Hyrule Warriors, he'll act pretty much similarly to how he did in Majora's Mask, silently rushing across the battlefield without a word. And then, the race is on, honestly, as he makes a beeline towards your commander with a speed that would make his Majora's Mask counterpart blush. And the stakes could never be higher, because should you reach him before he gets to the commander, and manage to cut down 70% of his health, he will begin to speak just as he did in the previous game.
Wait! Stand down! I admit defeat.
And he'll surrender, and although he won't give you a special mask this time, he'll do the next best thing.
You who have deftly defeated me, you have my assistance.
He'll join your army for the remainder of the stage. Of course, if he reaches your commander first, then there's just no convincing him. You'll still get special dialogue, but you won't get him, which isn't quite as cool, but it is what it is. At least you got to see him.
Has the war ended?
And just seeing him is sort of a reward in and of itself, because in my opinion, Captain Kida's inclusion in Hyrule Warriors is one of the game's coolest secrets that most players will never get to experience in their entire runtime. Seeing him talk about the war in particular really makes me wish that the game got a full Majora's Mask expansion, much like the Wind Waker one, which got 2 full stages. Seeing the Ikana army and his homeland in the game would have been amazing. It's such a fascinating and memorable part of Majora's Mask that would have been really cool to see expanded a bit here, or even just cool to see it in the game's modern graphics. But that's not all we have for you here today, because this is a double feature, and the captain of the Ikana army isn't the only hidden enemy lurking within adventure mode. There's one second Easter egg monster waiting within the murky maps of the Twilight adventure mode. So, admittedly, when Hyrule Warriors first released, a lot of Twilight Princess fans were pretty upset at the handling of one particular character, and that character is King Bulblin, because, you see, every single Bulblin commander of the game simply takes on his appearance. And while he was a pretty memorable, fierce, and imposing recurring boss, used to great effect in Twilight Princess itself, he kind of loses his menace and falls off a bit when you've fought literally hundreds of identical copies of him. How tough can a guy be when a slow Tuesday is slaughtering 30 of him? Although intriguingly, despite there being so many Bulblins in the game who look exactly like him, the character King Bulblin himself was shockingly absent from both the story and adventure modes of the original release of Hyrule Warriors. This of course didn't last, as in later re-releases, the king himself would finally make his debut in the various maps of the Twilight Adventure mode. Now, sadly and admittedly, this appearance is quite a bit less special than Captain Kida because, as I already said, plenty of enemies already look like him. There wasn't really a unique model made because, you know, when you've already made so many enemies look like him, you can't really go back and change it. But you'd be mistaken to think that this means there's nothing fun about his appearance, because, just like with the Ikana captain, King Bulblin will remain hostile until the player knocks away 70% of his health bar. And once you do, he'll begin to speak and join the player's army with certain specific lines.
I follow the strongest side. That is all I have ever known.
Anyone who holds Twilight Princess in as high regard as I do, or has even played it once or twice, will probably instantly recognize this dialogue, as it's the exact same thing that King Bulblin says on his final defeat in the game's iconic Hyrule Castle climax. And the reference doesn't actually just end here either. They went the whole extra mile with it, as if you specifically defeat him with Midna, she'll also have unique dialogue pulled directly from Twilight Princess.
He spoke.
While the appearances of King Bulblin and Captain Kida are but brief little parts of this game, it's still amazing to see them included in this title. Having unique enemies like them appear in the Termina and Twilight Adventure modes really helps spice up the monotony of doing the same missions on repeat for hundreds of hours when you're trying to 100% it like I am. It's a nice little surprise that helps you keep going, you know? If Koei and Nintendo were ever to develop a proper sequel to this game, I would love for them to include more enemies like this as little surprise cameos. Variety is the spice of life, and if there's one thing the Zelda franchise has always had, it's absolutely variety. So, what did you think? Have you ever seen Captain Kida or King Bulblin on your playthroughs of Hyrule Warriors? Are you planning to boot up the game right now to make it happen for you? We hope you enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you next time in the Kokiri Kingdom. Thanks for watching!